That is James Mennie. He is over at the Montreal Gazette. So, Jim, not sure where you want to start, but let me bring up Valerie Plante. We'd hope to have her on the show today. Plans change, schedule conflict, whatever. I played back part of the interview she did with Mitsumi the other day. But I'm just curious about one thing. I heard a couple of people bring this up. The idea that an outgoing mayor would actually sort of be conducting, if you will, a farewell tour. Is this pretty standard for the course or not?
Well, no, I've never heard of it. Usually when your legacy is discussed, it's either by your entourage or even by your adversaries. And it's kind of strange, frankly, that she was making all the rounds of the newsrooms. I think it's very disappointing that the listeners of CJAD won't be able to hear her speak. Although, mind you, there has been a bit of a poop storm created over a comment she made about her opponent, Craig Sauvé, having tried to rejoin Projet Montréal, and even her former colleague Luc Ferrandez, who's now, God help us, a radio host over at 98.5, says he thinks even she regrets having made that. So everything in its time. But I got to tell you, I saw one headline on the interview she gave to TVA saying, it'll take 10 years for people to appreciate what I've done. And I'm thinking, well, maybe even longer than that once the dust is settled. But yeah, I just find it a little unusual. I've honestly, I've never really seen anybody do that. I've never really,
Yeah, I understand as well. Her team or whoever put out a 102-page release of all the things that she's accomplished as mayor. Did you see that?
No, I didn't even hear about that. But I got to tell you, it almost sounds like she's auditioning for a job that is yet to be offered. You know what I mean? I mean, when you start taking all of your achievements, I mean, well, why would you do this? I mean, I understand the angles from newsrooms. I understand, you're going to sit down. First woman mayor of Montreal, was elected 2 terms, 8 years. Went through a lot. Went through the pandemic. We all went through a lot together. The fact is, like any other political party, the Projet Montréal had its best before date, and it's passed. And right now they're going to be lucky to, as we say in these parts, save the furniture, Aaron. I really think that, if they come out of November 2nd as the official opposition, that'll be a huge achievement. But right now, I can't see any glimmer on the horizon. We're seeing the defection of the campaign manager for Projet Montréal to Craig Sauvé. The whole thing, there's a as we like to say about the Legault government, there's a whole kind of fin de regime feeling about everything that's going on over there. And it also seems, as we have discussed on the show, with Luc Raborin basically laying off some of the more controversial, in air quotes, achievements of his predecessor, whether it's Camille Hood, whatever. It seems that they have done their internal polling. They discovered that they're in huge trouble, and they're trying basically to reinvent themselves in time for voting day.
I wonder, too, there's now, of course, this discussion going back and forth because there was another mayoral debate, I think this time over tourism yesterday. Craig Sauvé was not there, and I'm just wondering, because people keep bringing this up, Jim, we know there are 4 or maybe 5 credible candidates running, but these debates, as we get closer and closer, seem to focus on just these 2, and I wonder if you think that's right.
No, I don't think it's right. I think that, this whole idea, and I think it's based, once again, on the criteria of what you polled in the last survey. We're not talking about the House of Commons here. We're talking about the City of Montreal. We're talking about, you can do a poll for the City of Montreal. It's not going to be a huge sampling. And to extrapolate that into whether or not we should be hearing from all the mayoral candidates, I mean, if they paid their deposit, if they filled out all the rules, you know what? Put them up there. I mean, aren't Montrealers entitled to know at least what, even someone, if it doesn't look like they're going to win, what somebody else with another perspective is on what the mayoralty should be. Because it's clear, given the accusations between Ensemble Montréal and Projet Montréal, that they don't mind filtering each other's ideas when it suits them. So what's the big deal here? Are we in that big a rush? Is it that big? Just a formality that we're going to go through on November 2nd? Because one of the complaints I have is we don't know enough. We don't really know enough about what any of the candidates are really trying to sell us. This is a 4-year agreement we're going to enter into with whichever party ends up taking control. But it's front and center, and I keep repeating this. This has a huge effect on our lives, far more than any other level of government, and yet it seems to be getting the back of its hand in terms of coverage, in terms of scrutiny, and it's all of its, especially in the case of Montreal. I think it's a very, very crucial debate. I think it's a very, very important question that a series of questions that should be answered as quickly and as completely as possible by all of the candidates.
I want to remind you, Jim, of course, when you say we don't know enough of the candidate, don't worry because their pictures will be on the ballots this year.
Yeah, I know. It's just, okay. I mean, my God, this is innovation. This is how we're going to get people out there to. But once again, if you don't create a buzz about something, how do you expect them to vote? Why don't people come out and vote? Well, you know what? I'll bet you folding money if on the news quiz you ask somebody when is the Montreal municipal election, good luck.
Yeah, did that last week or 2 weeks ago. They knew. I think they knew November. They didn't know the date.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, there you go.
That narrows it down.
Did you happen to hear any of Donald Trump today at the UN?
Yeah. It's embarrassing. No, come on, man. We're laughing here, but it's like, you know what? And I'm no fan of the UN, but I mean, what's it going to take for the Americans to figure out that it's time to, tell Granddad he's got to go into, he needs full-time care, because this is beyond the pale now. This is not America walking tall. It's become embarrassing. And the fact is, I mean, to a certain extent, how much of the back of his brain was just turning into mush, boiling into mush at news that Jimmy Kimmel was going to be back on TV tonight.
Yeah. But I want to just play this for our listeners who did not hear it. It was on today, spoke for about an hour. This may have been the strangest ever address to the UN, because at one point, Donald Trump referred to himself, you'll hear it here in the third person, talking about the UN, but not about the UN as a body. Nope, the UN as a building.
Many years ago, a very successful real estate developer in New York, known as Donald J. Trump, I bid on the renovation and rebuilding of this very United Nations complex. I remember it so well. I said at the time that I would do it for $500 million, rebuilding everything. It would be beautiful. I used to talk about, I'm going to give you marble floors. They're going to give you terrazzo. I'm going to give you the best of everything. You're going to have mahogany walls. They're going to give you plastic. But they decided to go in another direction, which was much more expensive at the time, and which actually produced a far inferior product. And I realized that they did not know what they were doing when it came to construction, and that their building concepts were so wrong, and the product that they were proposing to build was so bad and so costly. It was going to cost them a fortune. And I said, and wait till you see the overruns. Well, I turned out to be right. They had massive cost overruns and spent between $2 and $4 billion on the building and did not even get the marble floors that I promised them.
All right, enough. This an address to the General Meeting of the United Nations today.
By the President of the United States.
Yeah.
This is the thing. And, it's kind of, if it was any other elderly person, we'd say, well, we shouldn't be pointing the finger. My God. How long, what does it take for the Americans to figure it out? What the entire world has figured out. And the Americans are, I'm telling you, they got their fingers in their ears. They're whistling as loud as they can. Like this is, Trump being Trump, aren't we? And every single indicator is the bottom is dropping out sooner rather than later. And nobody seems to want to do anything.
Jim, let me wrap up by talking about the transit strike. I guess I'll ask this question when we come back. Here we are, situation that should have been avoided. It seems to me, I remember speaking to the head of the STM, or one of their, I guess this was their publicity director, whoever, the other day, suggesting that there had been over 100 meetings, negotiations, 100 meetings between the two sides, and they couldn't work out a deal. Here we are in a transit strike, and the question that comes up, some people, I heard them bitching this morning, saying, you know what, maybe it's time we consider public transit, which is something we've been pushed to do more and more of. Maybe it's time to consider that an essential service and not allow this kind of a strike to go on. What do you think?
Well, the thing is, it is considered an essential service insofar that it is subject to essential service provisions in the event of a strike. That said, there are no good guys in this story. I'm very sorry. If the union is being overzealous in its demands. When we look at some of the salaries these executives are being paid, when we look at how the STM is being run or not being run, when we look at the level of service that commuters receive even without a strike going on, if anything else, talk about putting something under trusteeship. I think the STM is a prime candidate, especially with its ever-increasing and spiraling budget. But, in the end, no, I don't think so. I think there should be oversight, and they'll probably end up legislating people back to work. But the fact of the matter is you would really have to prove that there is, the public's health and safety is being affected by this strike. And frankly, I think that might be a tough case to make unless, God forbid, something absolutely terrible happens to a lot of people all at once. Yeah. But no, I don't see it happening.
James Mennie over at the Montreal Gazette. Thank you, Jim.
Hello, Canada.
This is Bryan Adams Radio. Hosted by Bryan Adams himself.
We'll play a few of mine, a ton of my favorites, and some must-hear behind-the-scenes stories from the world of rock and roll. We're coming to get you! One thing about doing rock and roll so long is you end up meeting a lot of the people that you admire. Sometimes you even get to work with them.
It's only love, and that's all. Bryan Adams Radio. I'm coming back to you. Now available on the free iHeartRadio app. Everybody